Okay, this is season 2, episode 1 of For the Homies, and I'm with one of my closest friends, Morgane Fouse. And if you've known me in the past 10 years, you probably bumped into her along the way. I look at her like a sister. She's changed my life in a lot of different ways. It's true, big facts. And I want to just like catch up with her and like see what her life has been like and talk about shit. And if you know her, I think this would be super. Why am I talking like that?
I don't know. Keep it going. Oh no, keep it going.
So what's going on, Morg? How are you feeling in this world of ours?
I'm good. Life is good. I feel like I'm at a place in my life right now where everything's like chill. Like I feel like I've just gone through the chaos of my 20s.
Hey.
Right? And I'm in the 30s club, and I was actually just thinking about this on the car ride over, that I'm grateful that I feel like I got what could be like a midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis like done and out of the way in my 20s. So now I have the ability, I feel like this next year is kind of like a year for like just complete reflection and like now understanding like all of the, let's just get deep here, all of the trauma that I need to heal from, and like all of the karma that I need to kind of like see and let go of, for me to like fully just really appreciate and be myself and be fully present for the rest of my life. I don't know, it feels really that's how I'm doing.
So do you feel like you're kind of on a good, like, stable playing field?
Yes.
To kind of do some healing and reflecting?
Yes.
And really push yourself to the next phase of life?
Yeah. I just saw a psychic today.
Okay. Tell me a little, like...
We're just diving in.
What's happening with the psychic?
So here's the thing. I've seen 2 other psychics the last few years, and I don't know, this one psychic felt more like a gimmick. Like I went in with the person I was dating at the time, and she was like, you guys are going to be together forever. You're going to have lots of pets. And cool. Then that was it. And but the psychic that I saw before this one, I was really excited. She was like clairvoyant, and she said a lot of things. And this psychic said things that aligned with that psychic. So I felt like I just got like, I don't know how y'all feel about psychics. I think it's like a thing that you can do if you're like seeking clarity. I think there's tons of things that you can do if you're like seeking clarity in your life. And I just felt like I just got this perfect little nugget of like almost like an affirmation or confirmation that this year is like the big year for me to really do that kind of reflection and healing that like I ultimately tried to do in my 20s but just wasn't ready to do. Like I kind of had to make more mistakes and kind of fuck shit up a little bit more in order to get to the point where I'm like, oh, okay, like now I have the lens and the ability and the serenity to dig up like childhood trauma and, you know, shit that just kind of unfortunately molds us into unfortunate hardwired behaviors and thought patterns. And I feel like I'm really going deep, like real quick. I'm so sorry. It's just it's right here, you know.
No, let's go. This is what we do. This is what this is here for.
Okay, cool.
I really like, you know, other people get the chance to kind of see normal people try to talk about some real shit. So, which leads me to these traumas and unhealed parts. You speak about, like, to as much as you feel comfortable with, kind of not even what happened, but like what did that give to you? What how did that set you back?
Just coping mechanisms.
Okay.
Like I feel like coping mechanisms and thoughts, like how I perceive myself and how I perceive the world. And I think it's just like if I enter any situation, I just have this like, I was fixing my hair real quick. When I enter any situation or a room filled with people, like just so many situations, right? I just enter it and it's like automatically I feel some type of way about me and I feel some type of way about them before I can even become present in that moment and situation. So it's just like there's this notion, there's like this predisposed notion that's just attached to everything due to some things about my upbringing, these like core moments in my childhood that led me to like think that way. Kind of like that movie Inside Out. You see Inside Out? Oh my goodness, you have to, because I feel like it's just it's one really great way of viewing like cognitive, just mental health, just like how our minds work. It's one cool way of looking at it.
Interesting. Well, now it's on wax. I gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the child, and if these things pop up, we can talk about it. If not, we don't have to.
Okay.
You have an interesting background, I'd say. So you grew up in France to some extent, and I know there's some Senegalese in there, but I don't know. Like, what is your ethnic makeup?
So my mom is half Senegalese, and I actually just found out that our family's not from Senegal, but we're from St. Louis, which is, I actually am really embarrassed to say I don't know if it's like part of Senegal, just like an island off of it, but it's like that. Yeah, I still have a lot. I still have a lot to find out about my heritage. Although I did just find out a really cool story. She said there's this one part of St. Louis where none of the houses have shades on the windows.
Like blinds?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, shades. Because I guess like storm shades.
Oh, okay.
Shutters, I guess.
Shutters.
And like still to this day, like none of those houses have shutters or something. And she was like, it was because my grandfather was just like a little prankster, and he just like went around town and stole everyone's shutters. So I thought that was really cute. Anyways, yeah, so she's half Senegalese and she's also half French. Okay. And my dad is German and English and a little Irish.
Little Prussian, little UK.
Yeah.
Cool. So 25% Senegalese, French, and all over there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And when did you move from France?
I moved here when I was 5.
Do you remember anything from what was it, Paris?
Yeah, I have a lot of memories from then. And I would spend the summer. Yes. Okay. So I was born in Le Valois-Perret, which is like right outside of Paris. And then I grew up like in Paris. I went to preschool there. I have like tons of memories of like school and my little friends. I had like a best friend, Daddy Borga. I still wonder where she is. She was Yugoslavian and French. And waking up in the morning and watching my French cartoons before school and No, we had this thing we had Wee Wee. Wee Wee was like this little clay guy, and we had Bangu, who was a penguin. He was really cool. And we also had like the Ninja Turtles in French, everything in French, yeah. Power Rangers were huge, French Power Rangers. I mean, it was Power Rangers, but it was just overdub. And moved here when I was 5. We moved to Reading for a year, and then we finally moved to the Poconos in Milford, Pennsylvania. But I spent my summers in the south of France where my grandma lived until I was 12.
Cool. All right, so let's take it to Ganu. So a lot of people know you as Ganu.
Okay.
I met you as Ganu.
Okay.
Because music has been a huge part of your life since the beginning, I guess, right?
I mean, I used to sing songs to Prince Eric in my bathtub when I was like 3 years old, right? That's like where it started. The Little Mermaid inspired me. And I would pretend to be the Little Mermaid in my bathtub.
Super cute.
And I don't know if I knew then that I was a good singer, but I knew I loved singing. And I knew I loved singing to Prince Eric.
Cool.
That was an awkward story. It was my first musical memory.
Singing to is that the Prince of Little Mermaid?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, what else could we ask for? And then when did music become more of a part of your life? Where like I remember you telling me people being like, "Oh my God, you're so good at singing."
Yeah.
You're so good.
It's still so hard for me to like take compliments and like be okay with that statement, but which is the thing that I have to heal from and work on this year. It was sometime in elementary school. I just remember being in like music class. Like we had that one music teacher in one music class, and there wasn't any like in elementary school. It's just like, here's some instruments, here's some notes on the piano. It's just like very elementary music. But I remember we like did solos for something, and at some point I got a solo for something, and everyone was like, "Oh dang!" And I was like, "Oh dang," And at the time, I think I started taking piano lessons when I was 7. I have really long piano fingers. Terrible at piano, but it's okay. And I think probably it all kind of coincided at the same time that my piano teacher was like, "Oh, you would benefit from voice lessons." And I think I started voice lessons when I was like 12.
Okay, and early on, you absolutely loved it, right? Loved singing.
No, well, I enjoyed singing, but I felt like and I enjoyed being recognized as someone who could sing, but I didn't feel like a crazy passion towards it. This is a good question. I've never thought of that.
Interesting. Okay. Didn't feel crazy passion.
No.
And when did that passion come, or like how?
In chorus, I think my ego kind of took over before I got a passion for it. So like I remember in middle school and high school, it was like I knew that I could like lead the girls into singing. Like if someone had a question about a line, I was like, Morgan's got it.
Gotcha.
And so I think like I had this like, I know what I'm doing and I know that I'm good at it, but I was still lacking like a passion. Like there were competitions and stuff, and my choir director, like at that point, it was like Morgan's, I was like a resident vocalist at my school, and I would like sing the national anthem. People like pushed me to like join really elitist like jazz choirs and like regional district choirs and stuff. There were like these big chorus things, and I just didn't care to like get good enough to do those things. There was just this like spark missing. So I think I was more into the fact that like everyone saw me as the vocalist, but as far as like doing it, I don't know, just like, yeah, sure, I can sing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you liked what like came with it.
Yeah. And then I remember like when I was 18 and it was time to figure out what to do for school, it felt really I was really overwhelmed because I felt like everyone in my life was like, obviously you're going to do music, right? And I was like, yeah, obviously. But it also was like, shit, am I about to spend like $50,000 a year doing something that I just kind of feel like about, you know? Yeah. And then the last bit is, there was one thing that was really exciting. My whole high school career, at this point, I had like years of piano lessons under my belt, which also like I felt not like if I didn't feel anything towards singing, I felt nothing towards the piano. But my parents kept making me do piano lessons, and I tried really hard to write my first song. I was like, okay, I feel like I have these skills to like do this thing, and I tried really hard to write this song, and I just couldn't. And I finally wrote a song about how difficult it was to write my first song. Like that was like this. I guess I succeeded in like talking about this challenge that I was like really that I was struggling with. But my senior year, I wrote a really corny like composition choir piece for like the graduating class in chorus. It was so corny. It was like, you're a shooting star. Now you're on your own. It was so corny, but I like wrote all the parts, and I was like a little bit inspired by Boyz II Men. And and I felt a little spark in that. So I think it just helped me be like, all right, let me try music in college and see where that goes.
Right, I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, so I want to talk about, so it feels like music kind of almost got pushed on you. Yeah. Because you were so good. Or because, I mean, when I met you,
because I had this gift. Everyone was like, Morgan, you have this gift. Yeah.
And right, and so while going through it, was kind of not sure because you enjoyed singing, but the spark wasn't really there.
I mean, I didn't really like reflect on any of that back then, but reflecting on it now is just like, okay, right. Yeah, okay, yeah. I don't know. It was just so much apathy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Apathy. So, okay, when we met, like you were in Westchester, and you met Jay France. You did a song with Jay France.
Justin Francis.
Who, shout out Jay. Who was friends with Kenny.
Yeah.
And then y'all kind of started making music together to some extent.
Yeah.
And then you came to Philly.
Yeah. So what happened from apathy to Philly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So in college, actually I tried music education, and I was just, the apathy was still there. And there was like nuggets of things that I liked, and I think it was more ego-based. Like I had like a good foundation of music theory, so it was cool that I got it, but like I didn't really care about it. And this whole time, like, I felt like because I was trying to figure out my shit with music, I kind of felt like a psychopath. Because people in my life made music such a prevalent thing, this thing that I didn't care about. Like, I just felt like I didn't have anything that I cared about. But I didn't give myself the space to find things that I cared about. So, yeah, this whole time I was like, is there something wrong with me? Am I a psychopath? Anyways, bottom line is I started dating this guy, and when things ended between us, he was in the process of learning how to produce music. And so like I ended up kind of getting into music that way out of spite of him. Like we ended things and I was like, oh, you're producing music? I bet I can produce music better than you. Whoa. And that was like the seed that made me want, like I got a cracked version of Ableton. And at this point, I had like some friends who, again, like believed in me and kind of helped me write some songs. So at that point, I'd written maybe like, I don't know, 5 to 10 songs where I was like starting to gain a process that I was starting to become proud of. Like I think at that point, I was like writing poetry. I felt a spark when I would write poetry. And in my dorm room, I would like stick little bits and things of poems and quotes on my wall, and if I like, after me and Kevin broke up, if I had made a beat that I really liked, then I would like go and I'd pick something, be like, that poem's cool, and then I'd just like mesh the two, and like boom, there was like a song, and like that was my little process. So I think by the time I met, people were always really excited to like meet a vocalist. So I met Jay France through my roommate Audrey, and he was like, yo, you got to meet my homie Kenny. I got to get you on a track. And we did this track with Jay France. And that was like my first time going into a studio and laying down vocals. And it was cool, but still there was something about it that I didn't like. And it was actually after that experience, even though that song's still awesome. Wake me up, wake me up. Do you remember that song?
Yeah, I remember how it goes.
After that experience, and Kenny was like, you're
the one.
Yeah, Kenny was like, you're the person I've been waiting, you're the vocalist I've been waiting to meet all these years. So I was like, that's awesome, cool. But I told him, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I still, after that experience, it's like, there's still so much apathy here. There's still like something missing. And Kenny is the only reason why I continued pursuing music at that point in my life. Yeah, there was a point where I was like, I've been trying this for years, and I just feel nothing. More like 90% of the time, I feel nothing when I'm doing music. This is really sad. This is like such a...
No, I mean, like, well, you lived it.
I lived it. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it feels like a really sad journey to me. But Kenny just like believed in me in a way that made me want to believe in myself.
Wow.
So I think I came out of that. I went through some really tumultuous like mental health things, and like I was having some addiction issues here and there, and I like lost control of my life. So I dropped out of college, and it was like the perfect time to finally give music a full try. Like I needed a space to express what I was feeling and process like a lot of shit that had happened in a short amount of time, like between 18 and 19, I guess. And that's when I like dove into trying to make some songs, and that's when I like made my first album in Westchester, and on my computer, and like kind of really got excited about producing, and I still don't know that I don't think I was excited about music, but I was excited that I was like finding my voice as a human, you know, because like when you, in the grand scheme of things, like 18, you're still a baby. I was still just like a kid, like realizing that my parents were their own people with their own traumas, and like understanding what freedom meant, and like understanding that choices had consequences, even though that was like really hard for me to wrap my head around, and I kept making very bad choices. But you know, like getting there, like, oh, this is life and this is how you live it. So yeah, I was just really excited to be able to learn to express myself. And eventually Kenny kept asking me to come around and sing on his tracks. And that's when I met Philly people who you were all just like so hype about seeing this person with, you know, this like thing that was cool and had potential. And like a lot of you, especially you and Kenny, like you became like my personal cheerleaders. And that was really cool. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it happened. I was just surrounded by people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and so I followed that. And then came the next 5 years, which was more tumultuous experiences with music.
Okay, so if we have time, I do want to get to like the tumultuous addiction issues. But for now, let's try to stay where we're at.
Okay. Am I rambling?
No. Yeah, the way I said it.
I'm a talker, so this is easy for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm loving this. Like, I'm just learning about one of my closest friends. Like, really. And it's first of all, I didn't know how big of a like influence Kenny had on you to like
huge.
Keep going.
If I hadn't met Kenny, I don't even know that I'd be doing music today.
Wow.
Kenny's huge.
That's real. And also, like, reflecting a lot of things you're saying makes sense because, like, so eventually, which we'll talk about, I became your manager, music manager. But I feel like during that time, I didn't even really know, like, this apathetic energy was, like, right but on the other side.
That wasn't really, I didn't really, it's like something I can see now so apparently now. Then I couldn't articulate it because so many people believed in me. Like, at the forefront of all of this was everyone else saying, Morgan, you have a gift. Morgan, you need to do this. Morgan, like, this is a thing you need to do. So it's like I didn't even have the space to be like, how do I feel about music?
Right. Wow. Very interesting. Okay. Let's go to Park Ave.
Park Ave.
Which, for those who don't know, Park Ave was like a college party house. It was 6 of us, and a lot of things going on. Parties, but really cool. We had a studio up in Kenny's room where Kenny would like have people like, make music, record, do the whole 9. And that's how more came into my life. One day, you just kind of were there making music with Kenny, and every now and again you pop up. But like, what do you remember? Like, Park Ave, I'm in the stew now. Boom.
I have a very bad memory, so I just have like bits and pieces of everything. I like vaguely remember meeting you. Okay. Vaguely. There's just, I feel like if it was like a 3-second Kodak moment, it's just like you just running through with like a goofy smile on your face, like, what's up? I remember meeting Malcolm. That was like a beautiful moment of just like Malcolm walking out of his room and being like, yeah, I produced, what's up? And I was like, who is this guy? It was such a funny moment. Kenny was just like this like prolific being in my mind, like prolific, yeah.
What a word.
Naya, I met Naya, and Naya just was like also like prolific to me. I just felt like Naya was just this authentic being that I was like, you know yourself. Like, how do I know myself?
Wow.
I've never told Naya that, so I don't know. I miss Naya. And I feel like that's kind of a lot of people that I met at Park Ave, and over the years, like I never really saw them often, but it just felt like so many of them made such an impact on me of just like, and I don't know if it's like the city kid vibe or what, but it was overwhelming. Like I was really, what's the word? No, I was really intimidated by the, was I?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so, oh wow.
Like you had a shy beginning, and then once I kind of started getting to know you, it was like blah.
Yeah.
Energy, but
I remember I was like really excited because I think I drank one night so I could like open up to you guys, and it was I don't remember the night. I just remember the morning after, and Naya like helping me through a hangover, and Kenny was like, yeah, this happens. Chill, you're fine. And I was like, okay. And so that was just like, yeah, my journey of just coming by every once in a while to Park Ave, and it was always so much fun seeing everyone. But I feel like I didn't get to know you until you called me and you were like, how would you feel about coming to Philly to pursue music? And you did that like at a perfect time in my life. It was so crazy. Like and like I didn't really have like a rapport with you yet, but you called me.
Okay. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like I was trying to get you to come to Philly way before you came.
Maybe,
right?
But maybe.
That's what it felt like.
All I know is it's 2013.
2013. Yeah, that was the after situation. Okay. Well, from my memory is like, yeah, you started kind of popping up, and like we immediately recognized how talented you were. Like you were so good at singing, and at that point you had like a couple of your own songs, like "Let Me Lit," whatever, and you had like your own style, your own vibe. It was very unique, and yeah, I remember feeling like, oh, like she's the one, like. Fucking go. Like if you really want to do it, and I tried to like not be like touchy about it, but just like I remember you lived in Westchester, which was like far, especially if you didn't have a car, so it'd take you like an hour and a half just to get in both ways. And I was just like, if you really want to do music, like you should move to Philly. And I feel like I told you that like a couple times.
And
then you called me. Yeah, you definitely called me.
I think I was ready, right? I called you when I was ready.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was telling you this for a while, and then you were like, yo, like, I want to move to Philly. Like, can you help me? And you asked me to be your manager.
No, I asked you to be my manager later. I asked you when I was at Pat's house.
Oh, really?
Right?
No, because
no,
you moved into my mom's.
This was 10 years ago. It was a long time ago. This was 9 years ago.
Something like that. Trying to put it together. I feel like you were already like at my mom's house.
Really? And that's when you became my manager?
That's when.
Because I felt like because I felt like you went through some shit, and then you went through the temple stuff,
right.
And when you were like you were like in a bad space, and I feel like I remember was like living at Pat's, and I was like, I'm gonna ask Ian to be my manager.
You're right. It was way after.
So you just believed in me you were like, come to Philly, let's get you set up. We're gonna help. Like you believed in me,
right.
But it wasn't until 2014. So I think 1 year later
it was end of 2013. I remember.
End of 2013. Yeah. Time's crazy to like reflect on.
Time is crazy. Yeah. So for me, I can say like you saved my life, because before you asked me, I was extremely depressed. I was like suicidal. I was losing my fucking mind. Everything in life was going wrong. And then you asked me to be your manager, which for me was kind of out of the blue, because it's like I feel like I remember like talking about not being your manager, just like you coming to Philly to pursue music for like at least a year leading up to that. And then all of a sudden, you just asked me to be your manager. And I was like, what? And I didn't know anything about what my manager really was. Like, I threw parties. I had friends who DJ'd. Like, I knew people who knew shit.
That's the thing. You knew some shit. I was like, this is going to be good.
Right. Like, I definitely knew how to, make things happen, bring the right people together. But literally, when you asked me, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I Googled, like, what does a manager do? And I was just like, straight Google university.
I remember
that whole time. But yeah, so
I was really proud of you.
Thank you very much. So what made you like ready to be that? Oh, actually, before we can start this, okay, yeah, no, I do want to ask you that. What led you to like wanting to ask me to be your manager? Like, were you ready or whatever?
Well, I think my biggest downfall as Ganu was that like I took everything on my own. I did everything on my own. I produced myself. I wrote my songs. I was the vocalist. I tried to book my own shows. Luckily people just asked me, and I was like, oh, thank goodness. Like I could not figure out how to book shows. Oh, and I was like promoting myself. I was branding myself. I was at the time, the sound that I had was really not big yet. Right. Like I remember, the first mainstream version of my sound that came out. I remember like 3 people called me and were like, "Have you heard The Weeknd?" It was like the first mainstream person that was like dripped in reverb and like a little abstract and different. And The Weeknd obviously is like amazing and way better than me, and we're 2 totally different artists. And I'm very whatever. It's again, it's like, but I'm just saying like as far as sound goes. So whenever The Weeknd got big, like imagine before that, I was doing punk shows. Like I was Ganu at a punk show. I was Ganu at a hip hop show. I was Ganu at like a rock show. Like no one really, like there weren't like
Yeah, it wasn't good.
There, right? It was like, or I was at potlucks, I was at comedies. Like, people didn't really know where to place me. They just wanted me to play, which is like really beautiful. And like looking back on that, like, thank you to anyone who loved my sound and just like wanted people to hear me. Like, oh my, that's so like heartwarming. What was the question? What made you ready? Okay, so I think there's this point where I was like, it was just a struggle though, and I was already didn't even realize that I had this apathy to music. Like at this point, I was running on those instances of people saying like, Morgane, I really, like listening to the song gave me this beautiful experience, or like seeing you perform gave me this beautiful experience. And all of a sudden I was like, there's like something bigger going on here. Like I'm making some kind of an impact, even if it's at like for one person at a show. So like that fueled me, because there's more part of me that wants to like help heal the world just as much as I want to heal myself. You know, like we're all suffering out here. We all have like a ton of pain to work through. That was beautiful. Like that lit a spark into my music career. And I knew that the way I was going by myself, like I was going to burn out and quit, like, because I always thought about quitting. Me and music just like didn't see eye to eye. So yeah, a lot of people were like, you need a band. And I was like, fuck that. Like my ego was like, I don't need a band. The band would have been cool. So I was like, all right, I need maybe a manager. And you were just like I would imagine you were probably the first person that popped up in my head, where I was like, I feel like, do you want me to be blunt and honest?
Be blunt.
I was like, well, Ian's got the connects. That was like the logical part. But then it was like, Ian fucks with my music. Ian was one of the first people to super believe in me and got me to move to Philly. And then I was like, Ian's struggling, and I feel like this could help, maybe.
It sure did.
This could help in a beautiful way, maybe. Or he'll hate it, and I have nothing to lose. So I asked you, and you were so excited, and I got so excited. And yeah, I don't know how long that lasted. Was that like a year and a half?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Right? I kind of ended it in 2015, but I think you you did some ill-fated native stuff before then. So I feel like it was a year, maybe a year and a half max, but like that was like the coolest, most fun year and a half. That was fun.
Oh, I want to hear about both of those. What do you remember? Tell me about your year and a half as Ganu. What comes to mind? Any experience?
I think it was like there's just like a few shows that come to mind that just like made it all worth it. There was like the other side where there was a whole other side that was just tough, and that was still my own relationship with music, and a lot of aspects there. Like I was struggling with writing songs. I felt like I lacked discipline. I still felt this apathy. I felt like there was a lot of patriarchy in the music industry. That was a big one. I remember like one of the biggest shows you got me was that Red Bull show where I like opened up for Ty Dolla $ign, and like first of all, anytime, even those big shows, like I just didn't care for it beforehand. That was like pretty telling thing. Like I did not care about that show, even though you worked so hard to get me that show. It was so cool. I was so proud to say like, oh, I'm opening up for Ty Dolla $ign, but man, I did not give a shit. And of course I get there and like Ty Dolla $ign gets there and I'm like, all right, cool. Like it's pretty cool that I get to meet this guy. Right. And at the time I had like a really androgynous style. Mm-hmm. And I opened with like Grand Poobah and Good Girl. Remember Good Girl? Good Girl? And we're like all in the green room together, and he like looked at Good Girl and he was like, yo, you guys can have all this weed, all this alcohol, help yourself to whatever you want. And then he just looked at me and was like, and like didn't say anything and just like treated me like I didn't exist in the green room in this Red Bull show. And it just, there was a lot of moments like that just like made that year and a half, like helped that year and a half get to the point where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Mm. But there was just like, I think some of my best memories of that year and a half was just like me and you going to like New York for that one show. It was like so much fun and just like going out to the fire. I don't know. There's just like fun local moments where it just was like, this is cool. This is cool. So
it was a lot of fun.
Part of me wants to like say sorry or something to you. I'm like, I'm sorry that that like it was that I couldn't get honest with how I was feeling with music, that I couldn't get past the point where I could like really enjoy it or something. I don't know. And thank you for putting so much into it.
Wow. Well, I appreciate that. I feel like it was like a lesson you had to experience that struggle with music, so you can get to where you are now. Now, I mean, we're gonna get there, but you're in like a really cool place now.
Yeah, I am.
And you don't have to apologize. You fucking saved my life, dog. Like straight up. Like
That's cool.
I was in a ditch somewhere, and then I hadn't, because before this instance happened, I had a lot going for me. Then all of a sudden I had nothing going for me.
Yeah, that was intense.
And literally, I had nothing. And then all of a sudden now this is like a purpose. Like, Morgane's fucking amazing. We're gonna fucking get her where she needs to go and have a blast. And you're not Celine Dion right now, but like we're good. We're in a pretty good place. I do want to fucking side note real quick. It'll be very fast. Do you remember when Malcolm not hassled? What's the fucking in the crowd, when you're in the crowd and you like
yeah,
Malcolm heckled Ty Dolla $ign.
Yeah,
the most hilarious way. Yeah, because like at that point he's a one-hit wonder. It was like Paranoid, right?
Paranoid, and we all love that song.
That song got me.
It's still a good song.
But like, so while Ty Dolla $ign was performing, he does like other songs, and Malcolm would be back. He'd be like, "Just play Paranoid." And I feel like Ty Dolla $ign said something.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thank you for heckling.
Thank you.
Because he was bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's hilarious. This is a personal, selfish question for me. Do you remember like us? Like you stopping Ganu or me not being your manager? Like I don't remember that at all. When did it stop?
I've like bits of I think I remember like asking you to not be my manager anymore. I don't remember why, but I know it was like on the precipice of me just like not being about music anymore. So I think it was that. And
yeah. Oh. I do remember one thing you had an issue with is like you'd say yes to something without really thinking it over. And then once you kind of thought about it more, you were like, wait, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So a couple times, like, we booked some shit or some show, and like 4 days before, you were like, what? I can't do this shit.
I can't, yeah.
And I'm just like, what?
That's a character deal. I do that in not just music things, too. And that's something I've had to work on really hard.
Right. Yeah, you've got to.
Sorry to anyone whose bridges I may have burned. I'm sorry.
As it goes, you live and you learn.
Yeah.
You're definitely like reflecting, genuinely, hard, honestly,
yeah,
and really, you have made a big difference. You are like a way better person, I think.
Thank you.
I mean,
no one wants to hurt anyone,
Yeah, so
I don't like hurting people, and I did inadvertently. I did inadvertently hurt people.
Yeah, that was honestly me not wanting to hurt people was probably my biggest catalyst for change, for real. Mm-hmm. One of them, whatever.
I love that.
So we didn't. What was I about to say? We didn't make it. Doesn't matter. Oh yeah, we didn't remember how we ended or whatever as manager and musician. What the hell happened after that? Like you just been like kind of.
Well, I worked in on the side. I worked in like restaurants and coffee shops the whole time. Also, mostly coffee shops, and I was still like at that point. Anytime I felt like I failed in Philly, I would like move back to Westchester for a bit. So I think in 2015, I probably moved back to Westchester then. And at that point, like I don't know, I was really going through some like behavioral things. Like I was still like struggling to maintain relationships in my life, and I think, I was like uncomfortable around people. I just like really had a tough time with humans on top of like everything else. Like I felt like everyone got this like instruction booklet on how to do life, and like I didn't get that. And I felt like I was still just, I don't know, I had like black sheep syndrome or something, like outcast syndrome. Like I just felt like I don't know, I didn't know how to interact with the world, and I would get really close with people, and then like there was like the opportunity for there to be like become stronger founded relationships, and I just couldn't do it, and then I would like leave, and I just kind of went through this I don't know, I just had a really tough time. I don't know how else to say it. There was just like a lot going on. That's really when like my mental health took a toll for the worst. I got really bad social anxiety. I was diagnosed with like derealization disorder, where I would basically just dissociate every day, and like kind of the world just didn't feel real anymore. And I was like still just like a lot of things in my personal life, like in my family life, that I didn't know how to work through, that like really affected me. And like same with jobs, like I would get a job and like 6 months into it, it's just like I just didn't want people to know where I was at, so I would like leave. I just would, like do things and meet people until people might catch on that I'm like having some major life issues, and then just go back to Westchester, go back to Philly, get a new job, find new friends. It was like kind of that for the next like 5 years of my life. But I really felt like I needed a constant, and even though I had this tumultuous relationship with music, it at that point was like the one constant in my life, which is really interesting. It was the one thing that had always been there. I felt like a family member that just always supported me. It was always there for me, no matter how I felt about it. So I think in 2015, I was like, let me try to make something of this one connection that's been here that I don't feel great about. Like, why don't I try to go to school for it? So I went to Full Sail University. I signed up there for a music production degree, and just kind of like really tried to maintain my focus on that while like I was still trying to figure out / ignore everything else that was going on in my life. And like the bad things I was going through on the side, like that was still very much happening, but it felt like it was the first time that I really attempted discipline in this one thing. And it took me an extra year to graduate. I went through some major stuff, major personal things that like I kind of want to, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it.
Which brought you
to
where you are now.
To where I am now, which is podcasting.
Well, true. So I'll start with this. You are one of the few people I know who, I think I just told you this, who they have a good job where they make good money and they do something they absolutely love. It's like you and 2 other people, for real. Some people make some money, some people, you know what I'm saying? But you're like, you make a good salary, like legit big girl salary. Being a audio podcast producer?
Audio engineer, sound designer.
Tell me about that.
So in Full Sail, it was all music production stuff, and it was like lots of fun. But then we took this one class, so it was audio engineering, where it was like putting audio together. It was like a puzzle piece, and I was like, there's something about this that I love, and it kind of brought out all the things that I loved about music production. And it was just putting this puzzle together and like making something cool that had an impact on other people. Like I think part of music, it's like music can be impactful, and it also can like not be. I don't know. And so I think like that other part of it was just like made it whatever. But podcasts, there are like really cool podcasts out there with really cool content. And I remember for my senior thesis, I recorded my friend's ghost story, which was really cool. And it had a really cool twist where like he went through this ghost story that ended up helping him like come to an understanding and acceptance of him coming out of the closet.
What?
It was really, it was really
beautiful.
Go out of a ghost story. It was really cool. And like I put my all into this project, and I like made all the music and did all the sound design and recorded him, and like listening to it now, I'm like, it's like such an amateur project. But the feeling that I had, the spark that I had working on that was like the spark I never had with music, ever. And I followed that. I was like, how do I do this? So I didn't really know where to go from there, because my school was like, we don't really know anyone that does podcasting. Like podcasting is a relatively new industry in like the timeline of things, right? And you know, thinking about it, like I remember listening to Radiolab my first time, being like, whoa, Radiolab. And I remember in an audio perspective, like I'd tried audiobooks before, but I have the worst attention span, and I couldn't do audiobooks. But when Radiolab would tell me about birds in, you know, some country that I like never really cared about. They did it in a way that was captivating. I was like, why is this captivating me? And it was the sound behind it. It was the music placement. It was like all these tiny little audio things. And I was like, wait, I know what's going on here. So it was just like really easy for me to assimilate my schooling and my years of producing as Ganu to this thing. And I just wanted that. So I started my own business to try and go out and do audio things for people. It was very like vast. Like, I was like, you need me to make you a song for your content. You need me to record you. You need me to put together some clips for you. I was like, I don't care. Just hire me. Like, I want to do this. And yeah, and then that just like, that got me through. I mean, fast forward 3 years, I guess, because I graduated in 2018. And I don't know, it's just connections. You meet that person that brings you to that other person. And I ended up freelancing for this company, Pod People. And I ended up doing some like administrative work for them. And then I did some administrative work for In Vogue series, the docu-series for Vogue. Vogue. And at the last minute, their audio engineer like bailed, and they were like, Morgan, you do audio engineering, right? And I was like, yeah. And I'd worked with some of the people on their team as a sound designer who really loved me, and so they vouched for me, and I did a couple episodes, and they were like, this is awesome. And I was like, hell yeah! It's so exciting. And I just, yeah, finally had this discipline. I finally had this like work ethic. There was finally one aspect of my life that I was really proud of, and I think that shined through. And, you know, like I sought stability in my 20s. But this was like this nugget of moment. It just like, I don't know. It got me there. It was like one of the first things that got me to like a good place. And that company finally was like, hey, we're looking to have a role, like a full-time sound designer in our company, and we want to ask you to be like the person to do that. And I was like, me? Yeah.
Wait, time out.
Okay.
So you work for Vogue?
No. I work Pod People.
Oh,
Pod People is this like podcasting, like they're kind of like, they used to be like an agency, and now they're like expanding. So they like help freelancers, connect them with people that are starting podcasts like Vogue, like Bon Appetit, but like people all over the place. But now they're starting to make their own shows too. Okay. So we have contracts with like, right now, like I'm working with People Magazine. People Magazine has a podcast, and I've been like working on their podcast, but through Pod People. So I work for Pod People. Right. But then there's also like famous TikTokers that started their own podcast with Pod People, and that's like their Pod People shows, and the hosts are these famous TikTokers. We got Ghost Honey, we got Jasmine W, who gives bad advice. She's amazing. We got Christian and Tyshawn. I'm starting a new one with someone from Sex and the City in a month that I'm really excited about, but I'm not sure if I'm not sure. Yeah, just really cool projects, and I get to engineer these things. I get to make music for them. I just did the composition for the new Invisible Hand / Spotify Pride podcast that's about to come out soon. I got to make like the intro for that podcast. It's just
that's a podcast for Spotify. Like not.
It's like Spotify and Invisible Hand. They're like a company, and they work together. So they just did the Earth Day podcast. I got to do the composition for that. I don't know. It's my dream job. It's my dream job.
What are some other? So you said Bon Appetit. That's like a big, famous cooking magazine or whatever. You said People. You said Vogue. Are those like the 3 big companies? Or like
we work with a lot of big companies, but those are the ones that I've like. Those are the projects that I've worked on. Yeah.
Damn, that's like you're very accomplished. Accomplished young audio producer.
Thank you. Yeah. And it was like, it's really just to tie it all together. It's like that first semblance of a piece of foundation in my life, stable foundation that I like didn't have as a child. I like. My parents were not in a place to be like, here's reality, here's a foundation, here's love. Like, and that's okay. I forgive them. I love them. They're great people. But then like moving countries, this whole thing with music, I just like never had a solid footing in this life. And like, luckily my like music brought me to podcasting, which brought me like this first stone of a foundation. I think ever since that's been put in place, now I get to focus on all these other things in my life and like start laying down the foundation of, oh, okay, this is what family means. Oh, okay, this is what friendship means. Oh, okay, this is what loving myself means. Oh, okay, this is what living in a house for more than 1 year, for more than 6 months. I like never stayed at one place for 6 months. Yeah, it's just, I was all over the place.
Are you in Mom's crib to attic?
I think patty cakes, well, I don't know, because I lived there a couple times.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't even know.
You did move a million times.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm really grateful. Sometimes I feel like nervous, like I'm like afraid to tell people about my job. And then I have to be like, Morgan, like, you deserve this. Like, your life was a fucking mess until you got this job. And I'm still working through that.
Wow. I definitely, like, when you said my life was a mess, like, no offense, like, you were going through it. It was a lot, like...
It was a lot.
You were, like, scattered. You were very scattered.
Yeah.
So you were trying to,
be hospitalized once.
A million things.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so maybe last question, maybe not. We'll see. What is this, like, newfound stability, like, feel like? Like, what is this, like, gotta feel?
Well, I don't know. It's just like I feel like when people talk about self-love, like, that's what this stability feels like. And self-understanding. And also this, like, acute awareness of things in my life that are just not meant to be here. And I think that's, like, a big one of, like, whether it's a conversation, a person, a food item, I don't know, but it's just, like, I know, like, oh, no, like, you don't belong in this reality right now, sorry. And that feels really good, because before it was just like, yes, yeah. And then I would have to, like, suffer the consequences of, you know, having to be around someone or eating something. I don't know. I just, in, like, all aspects, it's just, like, this intuition of, like, knowing, accepting. Boundaries. Just, like, a lot of words. We could throw a lot of words in here in this answer.
Yeah, you did have really bad boundaries. And now, like, you just say, yeah, like you said, you say yes, or you, like, wouldn't think things through. You just, boom. But through this whole journey, so now this, like, new found foundation or stability is, like, allowing you to begin the process to really create these good boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
And, like, explore who the fuck you are and what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I do feel like I do feel this process has allowed me to, like, I feel like I know myself. Like, that's good. Like, I don't know, when people are like, I'm gonna go find myself, like, I feel like I've done that. Like, I've found myself, but I didn't know how to love myself when I did find myself, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to forgive myself. I didn't know how to accept myself, and I didn't know how to be like, oh, these things, like, I need to get rid of these things for myself, you know?
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all still dealing with this. But honestly, like, you know, I just told you I just moved into a new place in Ecuador in March. And this is, like, my first semblance of really feeling any stability since high school. Like, I've also felt, like, very... Like,
what does stability feel like to you? This is, like, such a good question. I've never been asked that.
Interesting. That is a good question. You flipped it on me. For me, it feels like I'm in a place, like, mentally, spiritually, physically, where I can, like, healthily explore my passions, how I want to interact with the world every single day.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I have, like, more space to contemplate, and then maybe I need to put a plan into action, but just put like some semblance of that, and then every day try to have a better relationship with, like, the person who I want to be or what I want to do. Like, I want to spend this much time on podcasts. I live in Spanish. I live in Ecuador, so it's like studying Spanish, like, really, like, mapping my life, myself out, so I can, like, you know, live the life that I want to live. I feel like so much of my life, I've been just, like, kind of flowing in the wave of life, kind of, And now it's like this stability is giving me a chance to be able to like swim instead of just like float on by to wherever like she got this thing over here, like, oh, we're gonna go over here. I want to do this, so I'm gonna go do this. So like, I feel like the foundation is a motherfucking diving board for me to dive into like what I want.
The diving board
on a raft in the river. Okay. Last question. Thank you so much for having me. This it's like an hour, solid hour flew by. How crazy is that?
Wow.
What is your favorite Ganu song? And tell me a little bit about like the process of making it or what it means to you.
You should. Damn. See, I don't know, cause
Set yourself free.
No, I feel so. I mean, that was a long time ago, so I feel really disconnected to all of that music.
Interesting.
Very disconnected. I'm like, sorry, just. I'm thinking. I'm going through the catalog in my head right now.
I'm trying to think what else pops in my head.
The Melody of Silence was cool because I felt like that was
interesting.
The voice is silent in my head. I feel like that was.
I gotta play back some old guy new. I might do that tonight.
I can't. Anytime like I try to listen to that stuff, I can't listen to it, which is interesting. But I've been making stuff like recently. Like now I do music just for me. And it feels really good. And I'm trying to think if there's anything that comes to mind that I would be like, this is my personal jam. But I'm on the spot, so I feel like my brain's not letting me, giving me the opportunity to think about these things. Oh, there's one. What?
No, tell me, please. Listen to Ganu's music, by the way. Run it back.
No, don't. I don't know. It feels so dated now.
It's still fire.
Is it?
I'm gonna put some shit on this podcast.
Oh my god. There's this one song.
Okay.
Love and Music. What is it?
It's past my time.
I can't even. No, I can't even. I don't know.
All right.
I can't think of anything. I'm sorry, Ian. I failed this question.
No, who fuck cares? What's more important is that.
What's your favorite Ganu song? Is there something that I can talk about? There we go.
My favorite song.
I can tell you about it if there's something that.
Set yourself free always comes because when you hit that note, set yourself free. I'm like, damn, I gotta set myself free. We're like waves. Waves might be up there. What's the first song of the big album?
The first one?
Yeah. Simple little.
Fuck me. I feel like I can't relate to you the way you want me to. I feel like that was like the whole. That was like the way I felt about the world. I just felt like I couldn't. And I think people really responded to that album because I was just so raw in like my feelings of like, I don't feel like I belong here, which is really sad, but it was really powerful for people to be like, yo, I get that. And that was really, I don't know, that was really something. Like as far as Set Yourself Free goes, like that was a song that I got the most responses from. Like I would get random emails from people who were like, I really needed to hear that.
Wow.
And, those are the moments. Those are still the moments that I'm like, I should probably keep making music when I really feel the need to. But I'm not trying to force it right now.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Morg, thank you so much for talking to me. For the Homies, Season 2, Episode 1. We're just learning that camera went out, so we're
perfect timing.
New to the in live home studio. Thank everyone who's listening to this.
Fixing my hair.
Holla at us. You're probably our friend in our past. What's good with you? For the Homies, peace and love. Boom.